Welcome back to Dean Cemetery in Edinburgh, Scotland. In part 1, we visited the graves of Anne Nelson Brown, Sir John Murray, and Joseph James Hargrave. Now, let's continue. Here is another piece of history with connections to Canada, Franklin's Lost Expedition. And underneath this beautiful Celtic cross, one of its crewmates, Lieutenant John Irving. Franklin's expedition is a huge topic, but I'll try my best to summarize. In 1845, Sir John Franklin of the Royal Navy set out with 129 officers and crew on 2 warships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, in search of the Northwest Passage in Canada's high Arctic region. The Northwest Passage was a fabled sea route that proved true, from Europe to Asia using the Atlantic and Arctic Ocean to join the Pacific, which would reduce travel time of going around the Cape of Good Hope in Africa or Cape Horn in South America before the Panama Canal was built. Many attempts to find it failed, but Franklin, a veteran Arctic explorer with the latest technology of the time, was determined to traverse and chart the passage. These explorers were the astronauts of their day, but the expedition was doomed. Hypothermia, scurvy, starvation, lead poisoning, exposure, ice were just some of the issues faced by the expedition. And when the ships froze in the ice, what remained of the crew attempted to march inland before they all perished, one by one. Subsequent expeditions to find out exactly what happened to the crew had varying degrees of success. But researchers over the centuries until today are still making discoveries about what happened to the expedition. The biggest breakthrough came in 2014 with the discovery of the wreck of the HMS Erebus, and in 2016, the discovery of the wreck of the HMS Terror, both of which are now National Historic Sites of Canada. Which brings us to John Irving. Born here in Edinburgh and a childhood friend of Walter Scott, Irving served as 3rd Lieutenant aboard HMS Terror. In 1854, during an Arctic expedition, skeletal remains were found under a stone cairn with the scraps of an officer's uniform and a math medal with Irving's name. The remains were repatriated to Edinburgh and interred here at Dean Cemetery with full honors. Although some questioned whether these remains truly are Irving's, which was solely based on the presence of that math medal. But it cannot be denied that at least some member of Franklin's expedition was able to return to Britain and lay to rest. Irving is immortalized with the Irving Islands, located just off of King William's Island, where Irving was discovered. Irving was 30 years old when the expedition set sail in 1845. Well, the story continues here at the grave of Arctic explorer Robert Goodsir, whose expeditions were undertaken in search of his brother. Robert Goodsir's brother, Harry, was a member of Franklin's expedition and served on HMS Erebus as assistant surgeon. Goodsir, a doctor himself, contacted Franklin's widow, Lady Jane Franklin, and offered his services to help find his brother and her husband. His first trip to the Arctic occurred in 1849, serving as surgeon on the whaler Advice, commanded by Captain William Penny. The expedition was unsuccessful, but he did document the expedition in his book, An Arctic Voyage from Baffin Bay to Lancaster Sound, in search of friends with Sir John Franklin. His second expedition took place a year later in 1850, once again serving under Captain William Penny. Though unable to find Franklin or his brother, Goodsir and the crew made a breakthrough discovery. While on Beechey Island, Goodsir discovered a large stone cairn and 3 graves, proving that the Franklin expedition had sailed through there and spent time on the island. The graves are still there and were pivotal in the 1980s in identifying the conditions and contributing cause of death for the crew: lead poisoning from improper sealing of canned food. Goodsir eventually returned to Scotland and obtained his MD before traveling to Australia during a gold rush in the 1850s. He would eventually return again to Scotland and passed away in 1895 at the age of 71. In 2009, skeletal remains found on King William's Island were identified as belonging to Harry Goodsir and were repatriated to London for burial at the Naval College in Greenwich. Even though Robert Goodsir was twice unsuccessful in finding his brother, over 150 years later, someone else succeeded in his mission and brought Harry home. Up next is Major General Hector MacDonald, whose memory and tragic story is immortalized with the beautiful Scottish air, Hector the Hero. Sir Hector Archibald MacDonald was a soldier with the 92nd Gordon Highlanders out of Fort George in Inverness. Known as Fightin' Mac, to contrast his brother, a priest known as Preachin' Mac, he rapidly rose through the enlisted ranks and distinguished himself during the Second Afghan War, where he was offered the highest military decoration, the Victoria Cross. Instead of the Victoria Cross, MacDonald asked for an officer's commission with the regiment, which was granted, a rare honor. All of MacDonald's combat experience as an officer occurred on the African continent, first seeing action during the First Boer War in South Africa in 1880, and then alongside the Egyptian army, training Sudanese troops. MacDonald gained fame in the British Empire for his actions during the famous Battle of Omdurman in Sudan. Commanded by the future Lord Kitchener, a joint British-Egyptian force fought against a sizable Islamic Sudanese force known as the Mahdists. At a pivotal moment during the battle, the British forces were pursuing what they believed were the retreating Mahdists until the main force came upon the British rear that was being protected by MacDonald. MacDonald and his forces were able to defend off the overwhelming force and saved the main British column, which won the day. MacDonald received recognition from Queen Victoria, and by the start of the Second Boer War in 1900, had achieved the rank of Major General and knighthood. In 1902, he was sent to Ceylon in what is now Sri Lanka to be Commander-in-Chief of all British forces on the island. While in Ceylon, malicious rumors began to spread about MacDonald, accusing him of being a homosexual and being in the company of young English boys, and was sent back to London by the Ceylon governor to avoid scandal. While in London, MacDonald was advised to return to Ceylon to face court-martial, but on no charges. While in transit, MacDonald was in a hotel room in Paris, France, took out his service pistol, and shot himself. He was 50 years old. His loss was most felt in his native Scotland, who demanded that his remains be repatriated, which was granted. Unknown to the public at the time, MacDonald had a wife and child, and though he barely saw them while on campaign, still supported them financially. Hector MacDonald's wife of 19 years, Christina, organized a quiet private funeral without full military honors. But that weekend, 30,000 people came to pay their respects to their national hero. In memory of MacDonald, the iconic Scottish fiddler, James Scott Skinner, composed the tune Hector the Hero, which has become a famous Scottish air, having been recorded by Canadian fiddlers Natalie McMaster and Donnell Leahy, featured in the video game Civilization VI, and recorded for bagpipes by the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards. Here it is played now by Canadian fiddler Alanna Jenish. It is believed that the rumors that led to MacDonald's sad end were stirred by the British establishment, who viewed MacDonald negatively, having been brought up from the ranks to his commission rather than being born into it. His name was eventually cleared shortly after his passing. Anne Nelson Brown, the wife of Father of Confederation George Brown, Hudson's Bay Company chief trader and writer Joseph James Hargrave, Canadian-born pioneer oceanographer on the Challenger expedition, Sir John Murray, Lieutenant John Irving of the Franklin expedition, Arctic explorer and beloved brother Robert Goodsir, and Hector the Hero, Hector MacDonald. Just a few of the figures here at Dean Cemetery in Edinburgh, Scotland. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Please be sure to check out part 1 of our Dean Cemetery visit. Another big thank you to Alanna for her beautiful recording. The link to her channel and Bandcamp is in the description below. Thank you once again. Please consider subscribing to support the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.